Welcome back to the March. In the March, we're on to the Midwest region. You know why they call it the Midwest region? Because it's pretty mid. It's not as bad as the South, but this is a region, like I said in the East breakdown. I think this really could have benefited from an Auburn, a St. John's, a Seton Hall. There's no flavor here. There's no pizzazz. We got a couple of underachievers, and I made my picks here, and I stand on them. But frankly, I really just don't love any of them. I'm probably going to have to play around with this one a little bit. Let's go ahead and start with the top. Purdue against Montana State and Grambling. You never know with Purdue; they could trip up. I don't think they will this year. I don't think either of these teams are up to the snuff that Fairleigh Dickinson team. That Fairleigh Dickinson team was not that good. Montana State, who I think is going to win, lost to an NAIA team earlier this year. So I'll go ahead and say Purdue wins their round one matchup. Good job, Purdue. Good job, Zach Edey. You're still soft.
Yep, Purdue. This is the region of teams, really just the top two, but this is the region of teams who come in with some pressure because they continue to underperform, but went through some drastic changes in the offseason. Purdue went out and got Lance Jones, another really good guard who stretches the floor and has just worked wonders for them and made them better, a much better team than they were last year. And then Tennessee, obviously solving their scoring issues by getting Dalton Knecht, who's been awesome. So you see those two teams, they made some changes and got rewarded for them.
Yeah, and we got another 8-9 matchup where I'm going to favor the 9 seed. I think FAU is the only 8 I pick. I think TCU is just way too physical for Utah State. Utah State had a strong start to the year. They've kind of fizzled off. I think TCU is going to kind of manhandle them a little bit. I'm going to go with TCU here.
Another game, one of the toughest games. Of course, it's an 8-9 game, but I really struggled picking this one and still totally haven't convinced myself of what I want. There are a lot of stats that back up kind of both teams. I mean, TCU, like you said, is physical, has a great defense. They force a lot of turnovers. They're as good in this region at forcing turnovers as maybe anybody, probably like with Samford, honestly. They're great at rebounding. They shoot the three okay. They shoot the free throws okay. But they play 9 guys, and they've got 4 guys who can score double figures. Jameer Nelson's awesome. Emmanuel Miller's awesome. So I like that for them. And then looking at Utah State, 5 of their 6 losses have been on the road or been on neutral courts. So they are clearly a little vulnerable outside of their home arena. The one question I have with Utah State, and I guess with TCU really, is, Utah State's got this great forward, great Osabor, double-double machine. He's a big man down low. He should have a really good game in this one, I think, because I don't know who's going to guard him for TCU. TCU's perimeter defense is very, very good, but down low, Emmanuel Miller is a little small. They've got Ernest Uday, who used to play at Kansas. He might be too slow. I think Osabor has got the advantage in any matchup that they throw at him in that game. That's what I'm split on is can Osabor dominate, and I think he can. I like the TCU buildup of the team a lot. I think I'm leaning towards Utah State a little bit, but I mean, I don't like it. I don't like any pick in this game, so I don't know. I'll flip a coin and see.
This is a tricky one for me as well because I know I've said this in both other videos where I've said who cares, they're playing the 1 seed next. This is not
this case. No, I absolutely agree.
Next, if JMU over Wisconsin is not the trendiest 5-12 pick, it's going to be this game. Will Wade and McNeese State against Gonzaga. Gonzaga is an easy punching bag in these tournaments. Mark Few's is definitely not Mark Few's best team. A team that didn't even win the WCC. I really want to go with McNeese here. I think they're a cool team, but they have played some god awful. They played a women's school in non-conference play. They aren't exactly world beaters. I think this might be one where Gonzaga kind of flexes their muscles and makes the general public look a little silly.
Yeah, the spread is Gonzaga -5.5. This is actually one of my favorite picks. I really, really like Gonzaga here. McNeese, like you said, really did not play anybody. They played Biblical Studies, they played Champion Christian, and they played Mississippi University for women. Those are 3 real games they played. The Southland was not
sounds like a Michigan football schedule.
Yeah, exactly. This is a team, they just have not played anybody. Will Wade's got 1 foot out the door. He's going to go to a bigger school, a better job for sure. Their best wins, I mean, they won at Michigan, which is cool. Michigan is horrible. They won at UAB, good win, tournament team. They won at VCU, who was pretty decent. Outside of that, it's been a bunch of nobodies. Gonzaga is the best team they've played all year. Does the West Coast Conference, is that bad? I don't think they were that bad. I actually liked the 4 best teams in that conference. And if you look at both of these
We'll
teams,
talk
and who
about
they
St. Mary's
played,
here.
we'll talk about St.
Next.
Mary's. I don't think the WCC was as bad as people say it was. If you look at these teams' schedule, take the 11 or 12 best teams they've played. It's all Gonzaga opponents. It's not McNeese, who McNeese, by the way, shoots 69% free throws. Yikes, not what you look for. I think
Yeah,
Gonzaga
I
rolls.
think I think people are a little confused at the 12-5 matchup, and they fall in love with the 12-5 matchup because I think the real value there is with the 11-6. We're going to get to the 11-6 in this division, but first we got to take care of business. Maybe the most controversial game here is going to be Kansas and Samford. Kansas is a team who does not look good. They should be fully healthy, but man, Samford is probably the most fun team in this tournament. If it's not Drake, it's probably Samford. They absolutely fill it up from outside. They score. I can't remember one game I bet on them. It was earlier in the season. They scored 120, which is not something that happens very often in college basketball. I mean, they're a team that just fills it up, and if they get hot scoring, they can beat almost anybody. Kansas obviously is a tough draw. They haven't been playing well. We don't know if Hunter Dickinson's 100%. I can't remember the name of the other guy that's not playing. It's something junior.
Kevin McCullough.
Kevin McCullough, yes.
Yeah.
We don't know if these guys are 100%. That Bill Self's talking like they are, but truthfully, I'm going to go with Samford because I think it's a fun upset. I don't think it's too out of the realm of possibility either. Kansas has not been playing well. Samford is on 10 days rest, which typically is pretty beneficial for schools that are underdogs or less than 10 digit underdogs. Excuse me. And I think Samford's at 8.5 right now. That line has moved towards Samford, which makes me a little nervous, but I'm going to stick with them.
Yeah, I also will take Samford, I think, to win this game. And it might be a little trendy, but we said in our Big 12 tournament video that we just couldn't be more off of Kansas. I don't like anything about them. McCullough and Dickinson, easily their 2 best players, both a little banged up. Are they 100%? We won't know. But this is a Kansas team that is not deep at all. They play 7 guys compared to Samford, who plays 9 or 10 guys, has a legit depth chart and roster of guys they can play. Samford's going to press them full court. They're going to make it tough. They're going to make them run. It's going to be a game where you're going to need to sub in and out. That's part of the reason Samford is so good, is because they can sub guys in and out. A lot of guys get rest. A lot of depth there and a lot of bodies to throw around like a Dickinson or McCullough. They're also, I've heard people mention they're playing in Salt Lake. Is altitude a factor for a team that's not very deep? It definitely could be. I could definitely see that as a factor. Samford shoots the 3 super well, 40%. That's nice to see. They force a lot of turnovers, and they're really good at getting the free throw line. They shoot like 22 or 23 free throws a game. I think it lines up perfectly. I do really like Samford here to make this interesting and really try to speed up Kansas, the Kansas team that's just not very deep, and I haven't been very impressed with.
Yeah, no, I mean this isn't a Kansas team to pass, and a lot of people thought they would be with Hunter Dickinson in the fold, but they really just haven't been that good.
No.
And hey, it is what it is. Georgia hasn't made the tournament in 7 years, so
a long
cry
time.
about it.
The one worry that I would have with Samford, and I don't really know how well to judge it, but first game of the season they played at Purdue and they lost by 50. Now you could say, see, Samford plays up. They play these big teams that get killed. That was also the first game of the season. You're just not the team that you're going to become at that point, obviously. So I'm not gonna try to sweat over that too much, but it is an interesting little note.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Purdue's better than Kansas, by the way. So there's that.
It's true. We talked about this earlier. I think Dana Altman's awake. 11 seed Oregon over 6 seed South Carolina. This is becoming one of my favorite picks of the first round. I got it at a pick 'em and I took Oregon. And no disrespect to South Carolina, they've had a great season. I don't think they're fraudulent. I think you're really just catching this Oregon team at a really bad time.
Yeah, absolutely agree. You were ahead of Oregon on the Pac-12 video. This is where Oregon starts to get hot. They really do. They really are getting hot, and they've got a great roster. Dana Altman's a great coach. It's a deep roster that's important. They shoot the 3 well enough. They shoot free throws well enough. They've got a lot of guys that I really like, and the big key is N'Faly Dante down low because he was hurt for most of the season, big center, and he's back, and he absolutely dominated the Pac-12 tournament. He's 43 of 49 field goals on his last 4 in the Pac-12 tournament. He was 43 of 49, and these aren't just dunks. Like, of course, he's going to get some dunks and some layups, but he's a post guy, and they're making him work for him. I mean, these are tough shots he's taking. If he was healthy all season, he would have been an All-American guy for sure. So it's an Oregon team that just is playing so well, and they're getting healthy. They've got good players. They've got good guards. South Carolina, like you said, Not calling them fraudulent. I think they're a good team, but I think this Oregon roster is just as good, if not better, than South Carolina, and I like Dan Altman a lot better than Lamont Paris.
Dana
That's
Altman's he's a March guy, mate. He's one of those
he
guys
is.
like Izzo where you kind of just trust him a little bit more.
He's got a great tournament track record. Dana Altman does, and it reminds me a little bit. I went back and looked because I was like, what was the Oregon team that kind of snuck in a few years ago? In 2019, they were 6th seed in the Pac-12. They got hot. They won the tournament. They came in as a 12 seed, and they threw together some upsets, and they barely lost to Virginia in the Sweet 16, the Virginia team that won the championship. So Dana Altman knows how to do this. We touched on North Carolina State too. People are going to say, well, how can you fade North Carolina State? Got hot during the conference tournament, but then you like Oregon. These teams are not the same. That was a North Carolina State team that was up and down, mainly down. They got hot, and here they are. Oregon was more just a team that was trying to
Just
get their
injured.
freshmen in a rhythm, and they were injured. And now they're there, and they also have a much better coach. They played less games in their conference tournament. All of that said, a lot of rambling, but I love Oregon. I think Oregon is absolutely built for a deep run. This is the type of team you look for to make a deep run. Quack,
Yeah, I
quack.
don't know if they will make one, but the problem is because the next round they're going to be running into Creighton, who I really like. Creighton, I'm going to go ahead and take them over Akron. I don't feel like I need to say too much about Akron. I don't really know a lot about Akron. They are coming out of the MAC, which is not historically a powerhouse basketball conference.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have Creighton in this one.
I'll say this. I thought the same thing. I said, hey, Akron should have really lost to the 8th seed in the conference championship. Inexplicable intentional foul. Akron,
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah,
that
that
was
I've been
horrible.
out on the
Akron
South
should have
when
lost
that
to Penn
happened.
State. So
Yeah.
I was like, Akron shouldn't even be here, man. And I do love Creighton a lot too. I kind of looked into it a little bit. I think this game wins the award for the how the hell is this game close with a few minutes left? I think Akron, and I like Creighton a lot. I think Akron can make it interesting a little bit because Akron is slow. They've got a good big man who actually is really good. I didn't even know much about him, but they're going to ugly up the game. They can shoot it well enough. The big worry that I have for Creighton, not necessarily in this game, but just going forward, is they're just not a very deep team. They really play 6 guys, an occasional 7th guy, and that's it. And I just hate that because I look for these teams that can play a lot of guys to make deep runs. That's what I worry about with Creighton. They should win this game, and I think they will. I think Akron will cover. I want to say Akron plus 13.5 is a really good bet. I think it is. And Akron in the non-conference, they played without their best guard, Ali. They lost to Utah State by 3. They lost to Drake, and they lost to UNLV by 2, which are 3 really good losses, all without their best guard. I think they can make this a little interesting, but I will take Creighton too. I love the Creighton team a lot. I want this Creighton team to go far.
Yeah, no, and I feel like I do that with them every year. I think I had them in the Elite Eight last year. That's just how I feel about them. I think I had them beating Alabama, maybe. I can't
Yeah.
remember. But hey, that's the way it goes. Sometimes I kind of hate that they have to match up with Oregon next because these are 2 teams I would love to take over Tennessee and Purdue, but we got to get one of them out on the first weekend. Speaking of teams that I hate, Texas might be playing Virginia, Virginia or Colorado State. I'm afraid I'm going to have to pick Virginia if they win because it would just make way too much sense for Virginia to make a Sweet 16 run and piss us all off. That's kind of where I'm at here.
Yeah. I mean, they can come in and absolutely slow games down to their pace.
And Texas has not been I love Mac Naismith's. Texas has not been very impressive this year.
Not impressive at all. They do have a lot of talent for a team that's a 7 seed, and I think that might be able to pull them through. But Colorado State, it obviously depends on what happens in this playing game. Colorado State, Isaiah Stevens is their guard. He's awesome. I think I don't have a true opinion on this game. The winner of that UVA Colorado State game can absolutely beat Texas,
Yeah.
and I think that's how I'm leaning is taking that way. Don't know who it is, but if it's Virginia, they'll just ugly up the game and can make it horrible. And Texas maybe can't stand that, so I'll lean that way to whatever playing team takes it.
Yeah, no, and then Tennessee over St. Peter's. St. Peter's, love you. Not this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree.
Not this year.
The Vols.
Let's go ahead and bring it back from the top. Purdue versus the 9 seed, who I have as TCU at the moment. You have Utah State. I don't think it's outlandish to say Purdue loses this game. Maybe that's a little too harsh. But man, I keep saying it. Zach Edey is not going to get the calls that he has been getting in the Big East in the Big Ten tournament. It's not going to be so easy for him to just go down there and throw his body into somebody and get a foul call. Like, it's not going to go that way. So I would say I give TCU a puncher's chance considering how physical they play and how well they defend the three.
Yeah.
For now, give me TCU over Purdue in the round of 32.
All right. I like it. I don't hate that at all. I vibe with that.
It feels just weird enough that it could happen. It feels like something that nobody has really considered.
And we saw TCU 2 years ago, whenever it was, they challenged Arizona, one-seed Arizona in the second round a lot by playing slow and being physical, and it worked, and they really almost won the game. My question with TCU for there is, like, I don't have them beating Utah State, which is a coin flip for me. But
who's going to match up with Zach Edey?
Who's going to match up with Edey? Because if you can't match up with Osabor in the first round, I don't know how you're going to match up with Edey.
Well, here, I'll raise you this. Nobody on Fairleigh Dickinson was within 6 inches of Edey, and they still won that game.
True. And that's because a lot of that was Purdue not making shots. The guards got a little nervous. FDU turned up some pressure. That's where, they go and get Lance Jones, and that's a huge thing for them in the offseason. And he's been a huge part of their year. I think Utah State would be a really good game. And I think, Utah State could make that close. I'll take Purdue in that matchup. Osabor is an awesome post player. Don't know how much he can hang with Edey, and I really do think the Lance Jones addition is huge. But I agree with you that whoever wins that Utah State TCU game can at least make it interesting in the second round. I don't hate the TCU over Purdue pick at all.
I think it's interesting. I think it's it's one of the things to where also, do I really feel that bad about leaving out Purdue? I mean,
no.
What if they? I really don't feel that guilty. And you know what? If Purdue makes it to the Final Four and wins a national championship, I was never going to pick that anyways. So,
yeah, credit to him. More credit to him at that point.
Once again, though, I'm going with a big upset. Here's where we get some high seeds. I am going to take Samford over Gonzaga again. I think Samford is going to be your darling of this tournament. Everybody's going to fall in love with him. And Coach Bucky.
Bucky McMillan.
Give me Samford.
Yeah.
I'm going to take him again.
It can definitely happen. The concern for me here is I'm going to take Gonzaga over Samford. I think another close game that could be. The big difference for me here is Gonzaga has a lot of guards. Nolan Hickman, Ryan Nimhart are two really good guards, and they're probably going to be the best players in the game. They should be able to handle, I think, what Samford's going to throw at them. And then also the big men down low. Graham Ike is really good. Anton Watson's really good. I think Gonzaga can handle that. And I meant to mention this in talking about the McNeese game, but you mentioned this is not one of Mark Few's best teams. I almost think that is better for them. There's no pressure on Gonzaga this year, like we've seen in the years past. No one's going to talk about them. This is a very under the radar team that might work out for them. And
I don't think that's far fetched at all. And once again, we talk about there's always a 5 seed in the Final Four. There you go. Yeah. There's your 5.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a terrible pick at all. Next matchup, we talked about this Oregon and Creighton. Man, like I said, if you got either side on this, I'm not going to be mad at you. I'm going to take Creighton. I've got Creighton advancing all the way to the Final Four, not to spoil my own bracket. But Creighton is the team I like out of this division. I think they're really well-rounded. I think Kalkbrenner, as much as I really kind of dislike him, I just don't like him. I like Greg McDermott a lot as a coach. The Big East is going to show that they should not have been snubbed out of this. They're going to have 2 teams in the Final Four. They're going to have 3 in the Elite 8, all 3. So let me get Creighton in this one.
I have Creighton, Oregon, and I've gone back and forth on this one.
I have too.
I do like the Creighton. I mean, I love Creighton, and the first time I kind of drew up a little mock of a bracket, I also had Creighton in the Final Four. I think that they are that good. They can go that far and build on last year's Elite 8 team. I'm going to have Creighton beating Oregon in one of my brackets. I'm also going to have Oregon beating Creighton in one of my brackets because I really do think this Oregon team getting hot at the right time has a roster that's built for a deep run. Dante can handle Kalkbrenner down low. And then Oregon's deep enough that they can throw some guys around guard-wise and match the guards that Creighton has. Also, we've seen Creighton come out and it's hit or miss. You know before the under-16 timeout if Creighton's going to have it today because they show it early. If Creighton's off, I think Oregon can absolutely hang with them.
We'll clip this if it.
Absolutely, I will save this. This will be back on my Twitter because I'm calling this. I'm going to take Oregon over Creighton. Like I said, though, I think that game goes both ways. I'm going to have it both ways in 2 different brackets, but give me the Ducks. Quack quack.
I am taking Creighton based on the formula.
Love it.
Ken Palm, AP poll. Hey, look, it
Love
works.
it.
It's worked every year except for
Yeah.
the
It's
the
not
year
a
UConn
fraud.
won in 2014. So it's not snake oil junk science. It's just something that happens. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I get that coin flip from. I am going to pick Tennessee to advance. If it is UVA, oh my God, that's going to be the worst game of my entire life. I hate both of those teams so much. If it is UVA, I might change that. That feels like something that would be really stupid that would happen is
Yeah.
UVA. Everybody talks about how UVA should have no business being here, and here they come in and win
Yeah.
2 games and knock out Tennessee.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to say, I'll take Tennessee too. I do think if it is Virginia, maybe they can muck up that game enough and throw some things at Tennessee that they haven't seen.
If
That
you
would
could
be
defend Dalton Connect,
yeah.
you could beat Tennessee at the end of the day. That
Yeah.
boy, take the under on that game.
Totally. Yeah.
So at this point, my bracket is now looking a little goofy, and I may have realized the error of my ways that I have TCU and Sanford in the Sweet 16. Sure, whatever. I'll keep riding with TCU.
Weirder things have happened.
Hey, look, we just had Florida
So,
Atlantic in there. I mean, I don't think
exactly.
anybody was, Florida Atlantic was a good team, but I don't think anybody was that hot on. So I'll go ahead and I'll take TCU over Sanford, Creighton over Tennessee. I'll take Creighton to go to the Final Four.
I like that. I like the Creighton pick a lot, like I said. I've got Purdue Gonzaga. I'll take Purdue over Gonzaga in that game. All of these games, though, to repeat myself, I think Purdue's road is tough. Like I think Purdue, every one of those games could be tight at the end because
their nightmare draw would be being in North Carolina seat right now, going against Mississippi State or Michigan State. But that is a game that I would pick them to lose.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to take Purdue over Gonzaga. I think it's close. I've got Oregon, Tennessee. I'm going to take the Ducks again. I really am.
I love it.
I think this team, and I mean, this is a team that's just built for it. I love the buildup of their roster and the makeup of it and how they do it. And I love the coach. I think there's some magic there, and it only looks stupid until it happens. So I think they can handle.
Exactly.
Good luck guarding Dante. Good luck guarding the guards that Oregon has that they can throw around, and hopefully mess up with Connect a little bit. I'm going to take Oregon over Tennessee, and I've got Oregon, Purdue at this point. I mean, Oregon's here. You might as well win the damn thing. So
you need a 5 seed, man. You need a 5 seed. Come on.
I'm gonna take Oregon because now that you really think about it, first of all, to Creighton's point, another reason I really think Oregon Creighton second round winner goes to the Final Four because Oregon and Creighton both match up really well with Purdue. Creighton Kalkbrenner can absolutely hang with Edey. The guards are good enough. The shooting is good enough. They can beat Purdue. I think they will if they match up with it. And the same thing with Oregon. Dante will give Edey some problems. That's a huge big man matchup down low. And Oregon is absolutely good enough, I think, to beat Purdue if they're hot. When they get the momentum behind them, I'm going to take Oregon in the Final Four.
You just got to count on them to stay hot. I mean, you just got to count on them to
stay healthy. I'm going to take Oregon.
Don't hate the pick. Do not hate the pick at all. I do have one surprise up my sleeve. If Oregon's going to be your surprise, I got one up my sleeve for this next one. We're moving on to the West. Yeah. I think this is probably the second most interesting one behind the East, of course. So we're starting strong. We're finished strong. We got through those two. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll wrap this up with the March into March, and we'll get you some winners. Thanks.